In biochemistry, what makes a compound organic versus inorganic? Well, very simply, organic compounds contain both carbon and hydrogen, with carbon being the foundation. So you can see there's two compounds here. Methane, which is CH4, it contains carbon and hydrogen, therefore it's organic. Glucose, which has carbons and hydrogens among other elements, is organic because it contains carbon and hydrogen. What about these compounds down here? Is water organic? Well, there's hydrogen, but there's no carbon, therefore water is inorganic. Carbon dioxide, inorganic, no hydrogen. Hydrochloric acid, that C belongs with the L, chlorine. There's no carbon present, so therefore it's inorganic. Water is inorganic, and recall that it's the most abundant compound in our body, up to 75% of our body weight. As a side note, remember that oxygen is the most abundant element in our body. A lot of important points to water, which you can read here, but one large relevant point for this chapter is that water is a universal solvent. That means a lot of compounds could enter water, dissolve or not dissolve, and a lot of reactions can take place in water as it remains very stable. A compound can mix with another compound to form a mixture. There are three types of mixtures, so let's look at each one. A solution is when one compound will dissolve in another compound. Here perhaps we have salt water. So when salt enters the water, the salt dissolves in water. You can't tell where the salt is and where the water is because they mix together. We call that homogeneous. So solutions are homogeneous. And just to get some terms straight, I have an example here. When salt dissolves in water, salt is the solute, water is the solvent. Remember, it's the universal solvent from the previous slide. So the entire mixture is a solution. Well, what if two compounds don't mix? Instead of this picture, think of oil and water. Oil and water, no matter how much you shake it, they're going to separate from each other. Those are called suspensions. And because you can definitely say, well, here's the oil, here's the water, you can see the two separate compounds that don't mix. Suspensions are heterogeneous. Somewhere in the middle, we have mixtures that are called colloids. Now, colloids don't dissolve like solutions do. They act like suspensions, but since the colloids are all the same charge, they repel each other and they distribute themselves evenly throughout the entire mixture. So because the one compound does not dissolve, it is homogeneous. Here's the role that water plays in reactions. We have two monomers, and monomer is, well, they're links of chains. So when they come together and form long chains, you see two here, but picture many of them. They're called polymers. Poly means many, mono means one. These monomers could be anything. So here's two monomers, and they have an oxygen and hydrogen. They call that a hydroxide chain. Well, what happens if we remove water from these two monomers? There we go. We remove the water, and water is H2O, so think of removing two hydrogens, one from each monomer, and one oxygen from one monomer. We're left with this one oxygen. There it is. It links the two monomers together. So whenever water is removed in a reaction, we get building, which is anabolic, which is a synthesis reaction we learned. But in this case, since it's water providing the synthesis, we call that dehydration synthesis. Dehydration means simply losing water. But what happens if we add water to a reaction? Well, here's two monomers that are linked by an oxygen, just like we saw in the product in this example. Well, adding water to this oxygen here will actually split the molecule, and we'll have our OH group on one side and an H joining the oxygen, just like we had here. So since water has the effect of splitting this compound, we call this hydrolysis. Hydro means water, lysis means to break apart or to split apart. So removing water dehydrates, dehydration synthesis, it builds, adding water splits apart, hydrolysis.